Alex is still connecting to audio there. Can you hear me, Mike?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Looks like we do have a quorum, so we can get started.
Great. Okay, looks like Alex is still connecting there. Alex, if you don't, hopefully you know that because he's going to be one of the first ones up on agency reports here. So we can skip if we have to. Good morning, everybody. This is Lake County Council Mayor's Transportation Committee, and it's April 20th, 9 o'clock. My name is Bob Phillips. I'm the council chair. And typically we go through and do a round of introductions, but lately we've been doing roll call, and Mike Clemens is going to facilitate that. Mike, can you do the roll call, please?
Yes. All right. I'm going to start with municipal representatives. I'll run through the list and then pause and see if I missed anybody, and then we'll move on to other folks that are here. Mark Huber, Beach Park.
Present.
Bob Phillips, Deerfield.
Here.
Heather Galan from Gurnee.
Here.
Erica Frabel, Hawthorne Woods. Michael Talbot, Killdeer.
Here.
Jeff Hansen, Lake Bluff.
Here.
Byron Cutts, Lake Forest.
Here.
Joe Serdam, Lake County DOT.
Here.
Paul Kensier, Libertyville.
Here.
Fred Chung, Libertyville. Clay Johnson, Lindenhurst.
Here.
Gregory Jackson, Long Grove.
Here.
Steve Shields, Round Lake.
Here.
Scott Hiltz, Round Lake Beach.
Here.
Chris Bonata, Vernon Hills.
Here.
Chris Garland, Waukegan.
Here.
Thomas Maillard, Waukegan.
Here.
I see Kevin Carrier from Lake County DOT.
Yes, good morning.
Is there any other municipal representatives I missed?
Hi, Mike. Erica Frabo, Hawthorne Woods.
Hi.
Morning.
Thank you. All right, and then agency partners, we have Kama Dobbs from CMAP.
Yep.
Alex Sosa from IDOT.
Here.
Kelsey Passy from the Tollway.
Yes.
Rick Mack from Metra.
Here.
Ed Gallagher from PACE.
Good morning.
And Kendra Johnson from the RTA.
Here.
And we have Mark Cobb.
Here.
Lee Fell.
Here.
Tyler Grau.
Here.
Dwayne O'Laughlin.
Here, Mike.
Julie Roberts.
Here.
Dan Shug.
Morning.
Matt Smith.
Good morning.
Ben Vanderwall.
Morning.
And Scott from Benish.
Good morning.
And did I miss anyone? All right, we do have a quorum.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, first item on the agenda is up for approval of the meeting minutes from the last meeting, which is on January 19th. Is there a motion to approve, please?
Long Grove will make that motion.
Second by Killdeer.
Okay, are there any comments or changes to the meeting minutes as they stand? Hearing none, we'll go right into roll call. Mike.
All right, and I do see that Kayla Noonan from Fox Lake just joined us. All right, so for the meeting minutes, Beach Park.
Aye.
Deerfield.
Aye.
Fox Lake.
Yes.
Gurnee.
Yes.
Hawthorne Woods.
Abstain. I wasn't there.
Killdeer.
Aye.
Lake Bluff.
Yes.
Lake Forest.
Yes.
Lake County DOT.
Yes.
Libertyville,
Yes.
Lindenhurst,
Yep.
Long Grove,
Aye.
Round Lake,
Aye.
Round Lake Beach,
Aye.
Vernon Hills,
Abstain.
Waukegan,
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. Thank you all. Moving on to agency reports, Alex Hosa, we're going to skip IDOT Bureau of Programming because Katie's not here. Alex, I think you're first on the agenda.
Thank you, Bob. Good morning, everyone. I believe Mike has all updated for the design approvals, and I don't want to cover those. I'm not covering those today, but I do have few points to point out here. 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, our guys from Springfield, they met in with most of the local agency to discuss about agreements. And I'm not sure who attended, who's not, but in general, we understand the agreements, like for example, for phase one, historically, because this is like the least one, it comes phase one, after that phase two, construction engineering goes faster. Usually like for phase one, it takes like maybe 8 months, phase two, the same thing, maybe 8 months to a year, and construction engineering is faster. Now, they come up with something as of this last year, the section 1440. Basically, this is just very quick, section 1440, you submit the section 1440 for us, within a week we can approve it. And basically you can start your phase one while as soon as you submit your agreement, which is going to take 8 months for phase one, you can submit section 1440. We'll approve the section 1440. It means you can start with your phase one, and you can finish your phase one, and you can get your design approval. And that time, when you get your phase one approval, that time, and you can invoice IDOT to get your whatever you spend in your phase one. And that will help you, instead of waiting for 8 months for the agreement to be executed. Now you're gaining 8 months or a year to start your project for phase one. And you can do, excuse me, you can do the same thing for phase two. You can start for phase two, the 1440 again, and you can start, that's the only two actually you need, the phase one and phase two. And this is one. And the second area I want to cover, and this is something new, just came out like a month ago, circular letter 2023-08, which is a streamlined environmental survey screening process. In the past, we had similar to that, the screening process for cultural only. And if basically at that time, if you have like mill resurface in kind, usually Bill Raffensberger from Springfield will just take a look at it and he'll approve it right away. That's for culture. Now with this one here, the circular letter 2023, basically, if you submit it to us for before any projects you have, even if there's some tree removals, even if you have some permanent or temporary easement or some right of way, you can submit that to us, and 80% of the projects will be approved by Bill. They give him access to see anything in that area for him to approve it, instead of going through the bio unit, which might take a year or more. Basically, with this streamlined, you might get your bio and cultures approved within a week or two. And basically with this, all what you need to submit the BDE 2715 with the attachments. You submit it to me and we'll send it to Springfield. He will look at it, and the promise was within like maximum 2 weeks, we'll get you the answer. And if there's any tree removal, and if you have commitment, those tree removals will be removed between October 1st, I believe, to March 31st. You don't need bio for that. I think those are the right dates. I'm not sure exactly the dates, but I believe October 1st or November 1st to March 31st, one of those two, but I can get back to you for that. This is one thing that was actually will expedite your ESR, which is sometimes it takes a year or two to get that approved, to get your design approval. And we covered the agreement, we covered the the streamlined. The last one I want to cover with everyone has a problem with ADA if you are milling a resurfacing and you're crossing IDOT route. And that I did discuss that with Jason Sally, and I did ask him the questions. If you do have resurfacing job and you are crossing IDOT route, do you really need the ADA? And because everyone was confused about, do you need it or you don't need it? And why didn't we agreed to start first with the project alert, which is like BD, I forgot which one is that actually. This is basically the BD like 0038 or 39. This is the project alert that tells you basically that we do have various contractor. They do the ADA on IDOT routes everywhere in the District 1. And with this, the project alert, excuse me, you submit it to us, we send it to Bureau Programming. They want to look at their records. If their contractors going to be doing this intersection in the near future. If they do, it means you don't need to do the ADA part of your project. This is one. And the other question now, if you do resurfacing job, this is a reply came from Bureau Programming. I asked them that question. If you do your resurfacing job, do we need to do ADA or not? And the question was, if a local agency resurface a roadway and that resurfacing includes a crosswalk, they are required by law to bring the crosswalk and the ADA ramps up to compliance. If they cannot do the right-of-way restriction, they need to submit MEP, which is maximum extent practice, which is BDE 3101. That's the form they need to submit. If they cannot do it, because the right-of-way restriction. And basically concluded that basically that's what they need. Basically, if you touch the crosswalks, it means you have to do the ADA. If you are outside of, you're resurfacing, you're not touching the state, I mean the crosswalks, you don't need to do ADA. But the first thing I encourage everyone to submit the project alert, ADA alert, to us, and we'll submit it to our guys in upstairs in programming, and we can give you the answer if IDOT have future projects for that intersection or not. And we'll go from there. I think that's all what I have. I covered everything what I have. Do you have any questions at all?
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
One more chance for questions of Alex. Hearing none, we're moving on to the Illinois Tollway. Kelsey, are you in the room?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Just a few things to go over that. So this week is National Work Zone Awareness Week, which brings national attention to drivers and worker safety in work zone areas across our country. So this year's campaign is "You Play a Role in Work Zone Safety, Work with Us," reminding drivers to use extra caution in work zones and keep everyone safe. As roadways are maintained and upgraded, it's important for drivers to help provide a safe environment and exhibit safe driving habits throughout highway work zones. So we're very proud of our commitment to safety, and we partnered with IDOT and Illinois State Police for that National Work Zone Awareness Week. Next, we have released our Tollway app. So it's just a more easy, quick, money-saving way for drivers to pay their tolls and avoid any fees or fines now using their smartphone. So it just lets drivers use their phones or mobile devices to update or manage their iPass accounts, including adding or purchasing transponders, adding or changing payment methods, and managing rental vehicles or new vehicles. So even if drivers don't have iPass, they can use our pay-by-plate, which will help automatically pay their tolls if they know where they're going through. And then let's see, also using the app, they can call for roadside assistance to help with roadway emergencies so they can safely complete their trip. Next, we have our tollway services and amenity survey. So we're just seeking information regarding what sorts of services and amenities customers would like to see on the tollway. Anyone interested is invited to take a 5 to 10 minute online survey. Responses from regular commuters and occasional drivers will help us better understand your needs as a customer and will help shape our future program improvements. I'll put that link in the chat when I'm finished. And then lastly, starting in April, customers who have received multiple invoices and reminders for the same unpaid tolls will receive a notice of violation that, if ignored, will result in a $20 fine assessed on each unpaid toll. So these fines will be in addition to any previously assessed invoice fees. You can go on our website and search by license plate or invoice number to identify those unpaid tolls. So as we begin reinstating these violation notices, customers with outstanding initial toll invoices that were issued between June 1st of 2020 and September 30th, 2022, will have a 6-month hold in place on notices and will be eligible for a discount of up to 50% off fees on their paid invoices. And we do still have our iPass Assist program where income eligible customers who qualify may have their fees dismissed. So customers with those outstanding initial toll invoices issued on or after October 1st of 2022, they will be issued that notice of violation, which may result in that additional $20 fine per toll. However, customers have an opportunity to dispute their violations as well. So since unpaid toll invoicing began in 2020, along with our agency's transition to cashless tolling, the tollway estimates that more than 6 million invoices have gone unpaid, with a troubling trend of repeat non-compliance in a growing number of customers. So this includes more than $110 million in unpaid tolls over the past 3 years. So I'll be able to send out some more information tomorrow. Our team is meeting. We just want to be sure that you guys have all that information, but for now, I will put that tollway services and amenity survey in the chat, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Kelsey. That's a lot. That's a lot of unpaid tolls. That's a big number.
There's a lot, yeah.
Any further questions of Kelsey? If not, moving on to Kama at CMAP.
Great. Good morning, Bob. Thank you. And good morning, everyone. Few things this morning. It's that time of year when CMAP is accepting applications for our Future Leaders in Planning, or FLIP program. This is a free summer program for high school students to explore the field of urban planning and learn about the issues that shape our region and communities. Sessions will be held from July 10th through 14th at our offices in downtown Chicago, with field trips throughout the region. FLIP is open to high school students in all 7 counties in the region, and applications for that program are due by Tuesday, May 30th. I also want to say thank you to everyone here that applied for CMAQ carbon reduction, the STP shared fund, and TAP local funding. If you did apply, you probably received an email from CMAP a couple weeks ago asking you to take a short survey about the application process. Feedback that we received from that survey will help us make improvements during our next application cycle. So appreciate that. It's taking folks an average of 3.5 minutes to fill it out. So not a big burden, and it's a good chance to tell us where we missed the mark with our training opportunities and instruction manuals. So getting some really good feedback there that we'll be able to wrap into the next call, and that we're also sharing with the councils to apply to their calls for projects as well. During the call for projects, we received 129 total applications for all types of road, bike, ped, and transit projects that total over $6 billion in total costs, that are seeking about $1 billion in federal funding. Staff is currently in the process of reviewing the eligibility of those applications and evaluating the projects. Draft scores should be available in early June, followed by staff recommended programs in early July. A couple of big things that CMAP's currently working on. First of all, as directed by the General Assembly, we're developing a plan of action for regional transit that we call PART report, and that will include a set of legislative recommendations to strengthen the regional transit system. This report must be submitted to the General Assembly and Governor's Office by January 1st of 2024. The recommendations will discuss topics that include improving transit through enhanced bus service, enabling fare integration, and other measures, identifying sustainable revenues for the system through changes to the sales tax or other mechanisms, and exploring what governance reforms may be needed to enact these desired changes. We've enabled a steering committee comprised of business, civic, labor, and environmental stakeholders to help guide the development of the recommendations. The steering committee has held 2 meetings and will next be convening on Wednesday, May 24th. I believe our outreach staff is working with Mike to set up a briefing for the council as a whole, but if any of your individual municipalities would like a briefing on the PART report, you can get in touch with Jane Grover at CMAP, and she's at 312-386-8802. The other big program we're working on right now is what we call STAR, the Safe Travel for All Roadmap. This program will continue and build upon the work of the Safety Action Agenda and align the effort with new federal funding opportunities. It includes the development of policies related to speed management, bicycle and pedestrian safety, the creation of safety action plans for qualifying local partners, the dedication of resources to planning and implementing complete streets projects, as well as the creation of data resources for our partners to better address safety. The region was awarded a $5 million planning grant to improve traffic safety across the region. That joint application was submitted by CMAP, IDOT, and the region's counties to fund a comprehensive regional program, which will provide a framework for safety research and programs to make Northeastern Illinois safer for all travelers. Once completed, that action plan can be used to help everyone here meet the planning requirements for applying for safety project implementation funding through the federal Safe Streets and Roads for All program. So that report won't be completed in time for the current cycle that's open, but for the next cycle, it may be in place. So speaking of Safe Streets and Roads for All, USDOT is now currently accepting applications for this program through July 10th. The program is a direct recipient program, therefore funds will not pass through IDOT, and recipients will be responsible for meeting all federal grantee requirements. Also, the USDOT is accepting applications through May 30th for the Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Discretionary Grant Program to strategically deploy electric vehicle charging infrastructure and other alternative fueling infrastructure projects in both urban and rural communities in publicly accessible locations, which includes downtown areas and local neighborhoods. They're particularly targeting funding towards underserved and disadvantaged communities. And this program does provide 2 funding categories. The first is what they call the community program, and that is grants for community charging and fueling. And then the second is the corridor program to provide funding for alternative fuel corridors. Finally, USDOT, who's very busy right now, are accepting applications through August 1st for a new pilot program for wildlife crossings. This is a program that aims to not only protect wildlife, but also reduce the number of wildlife vehicle collisions and improve habitat connectivity. So that's targeting about 60% of the funding to rural areas, but urban areas are also eligible for that. Here in Illinois, IDOT is accepting applications for transit planning funding to expand safe, equitable access to public transportation throughout the state. Selected projects need to feature transit opportunities while also furthering the goals of IDOT's long-range transportation plan. Those applications are due May 24th. Lastly, IDOT's Special Programs Unit is holding informational conferences in each of the IDOT districts this spring to present 3 grant programs to help fund your next transportation projects. Those are the Economic Development Program, the Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program, which is ITEP, as well as Safe Routes to School programs. So I know many of you have taken advantage of all 3 of these programs in the past. These conferences that IDOT's holding are going to offer general information about each of the programs, as well as answer questions specific to you with one-on-one appointments available so that you can ask about your specific projects. In District 1, those meetings will be held May 23rd and 24th at the IDOT District 1 office in Schaumburg. And then a second session will be held the 25th and 26th at the Orland Park Civic Center. The last thing I have today is just a reminder that with the disaster declaration anticipated to end on May 11th, in accordance with the requirements of the Open Meetings Act, CMAP committee meetings will be held in person, and a quorum of committee members will need to be physically present in order to conduct committee business. But CMAP does intend to continue to provide virtual options for non-member attendees and the public to participate in meetings. So heads up if you're involved in any CMAP committees, it's time to start adding time to the calendars for that travel downtown. So that'll be starting in mid-May unless there's some legislative action to make changes to the Open Meetings Act, but we're not anticipating that happening. So that was all I had today, unless there are questions.
Thank you, Kama. That was very informative. If somebody has specific questions regarding some of these funding opportunities, because there are a lot that you kind of went through, who would they reach out to? Who would they contact to try and have an offline conversation with on that?
Honestly, I would start with Mike. I think Mike's got a print copy of all of the contact information for each of the programs, as well as links to all of the websites. So
great.
And maybe, I don't know, Mike, if you want to just maybe send out a list that has all of that. And, CMAP staff, myself, you're welcome to reach out as well, and I can help direct you to the right people.
Great, thank you.
Of course.
Bob, do you mind if I add one thing to whatever Kama just mentioned?
Go ahead.
Yeah, for what Kama was mentioning about the 2023 Special Program Assistant Conference in District 1 here is May 23rd and May 24th, and the same thing like what Kama mentioned, May 25th and 26th. The first day will be actually presentation, and half of this first day, it will be actually meeting one-to-one with the local agencies. If they do have a project, for example, they do have ADP project or Safe Route to School project or ITAB, we'll look at their application and we'll tell them if this is doable or not doable project. And that's going to be for half of the 23rd and the full day for the 24th. And the same thing, it will be for the 25th in Orland Park, half day of the May 25th and the full day of May 26th. That is the meeting one-to-one with the local agencies and their consultants. And Mike Clemens, he's aware like where to sign up for those online. That's all what I want to add.
Okay. So Mike, will it be like an invite coming out or something sometime soon? Mike, Alex?
I'll send a follow-up email with funding opportunities and then also links to the registration for that special programs conference, I guess is what they're calling it, that Alex just mentioned. So I'll send that out later today.
That's great.
Yeah, and I think, Bob, all of those funding programs, IDOT has issued circular letters pointing to all of them, even those that are coming from the federal side. So if you're on the circular letter distribution list, those have been coming out over the last couple of weeks too.
Sure.
Yeah. I'll just
That's
compile them into a single email and put them out together so everybody has them in one place, because I know we all get so much email and it's hard to keep up with that stuff. So I'll just drop them all together.
Yeah, that's kind of more what I was alluding to, is kind of having everything in one place, which, there's a lot of information out there, but I think having it in a concise location is probably would be helpful for people. So thank you, Camo. Moving on to RTA, Kendra Johnson, please.
Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kendra Johnson. I am new to the RTA's government affairs team, but I'm not new to the Council of Mayors world. I previously was with the Northwest Municipal Conference, so I was the planning liaison for the Northwest Council. So I'm filling in for Anthony this morning. I'll just highlight a couple of items on the written report, which I will send to the chat. So now that transit is the answer, our strategic plan was approved by the RTA board. We're sort of pivoting to the implementation activities outlined in the plan, starting with forming the Transit is the Answer Coalition, which will be made up of local riders, stakeholders, leaders like yourselves in the region. And we're hosting a kickoff breakfast for the coalition here at RTA headquarters on Tuesday, the 25th. I believe it's from 8 to 10 a.m. And there's a sign up in the RTA report if you're interested in attending that. We'll have coffee and pastries, and you can pick up a hard copy of the plan. Executive Director Redden will be making some remarks and sort of an open house event, so stop by if you can. And then even if you can't come to that, I encourage everyone to sign up for the Transit is the Answer Coalition email list, where you'll get information on quarterly meetings that are starting up in May. And then along those same lines, if this group is interested in a presentation from Executive Director Redden and RTA staff on Transit is the Answer, we're happy to arrange that with Mike. So please let me know if that's something this group is interested in. Other than that, on the report, there's some information on the 5310 program, which has an open call for projects. It's closing tomorrow. In the past, that program has funded previous iterations of Ride Lake County. So I'm sure you're familiar with that program. And then the last item in the report is our project management oversight report, which comes out twice a year and has updates on capital projects from our service board partners. And with that, that concludes my report. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Kendra, and welcome.
Thank you.
Any further questions of Kendra? Hearing none, we're moving on to Metro. Rick, are you in the room?
Yes, I am. Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Rick.
I'll start with our Lake County Metro projects update. North Chicago Station, this project's being led by the city, and we appreciate that. Metro's providing quite a bit of funding towards this project, and what it is, it's the rehab of the interior of the North Chicago Station. The bathroom in there will become ADA accessible. This project is supposed to begin in early June. Will probably be completed sometime in the third quarter of this year. The exterior of that station was already completed, I believe at this point, a couple years ago now. So again, thank you to North Chicago. They've been a good partner on this project. I'll move on to the Milwaukee North Line. We have a signal upgrade project that's going on there, as well as installing new crossovers just north of Conway Road. Project limits here is basically from the Deerfield Station to just northwest of Roundout, where the tollway overpasses the Milwaukee North Line. That's the limits where we are upgrading the signal system as well as adding those crossovers. This project's ongoing. I would expect it will be substantially complete by the end of this year, but some work will need to be done all the way into, I would say, the second quarter of next year. I'll move on now to Fox Lake. The Fox Lake Station doubles as a crew facility for Metro. At that station is for a crew facility. We're planning on expanding our crew facility, thereby expanding the station by approximately 1/3 of its current size. I would expect that project is targeted to go to construction either later this year. If not, it'll for sure be under construction by this time next year. And that concludes my projects update for Lake County. I'll go on to Metro ridership update. Our CEO, Jim Dewinski, yesterday at the Metro board meeting gave an update on our ridership, and I'll recap it this way. Last week, we had we carried 160,000 riders last week. To put this into perspective, that's the highest since the pandemic. We have pretty much stalled out at 45%, but that 160,000 riders puts us at about 55% last week. Now, again, that's a snapshot. We'll see if we sustain that, but that's really good news. Also, the other thing we're looking at, the business district in the city, watching the swipes for those buildings. That's how they measure how many people are coming downtown into the office buildings back to work. That is now a little over 50% and is expected to increase to 55% by June. So as we heard, CMAP and other organizations are going back in person because the emergency order is being lifted by both the governor and the president. We do think more people will be returning to the office. Our CEO, Jim Dewinski, also mentioned yesterday that trend throughout the nation is from people working at home 5 days a week to coming into the office 2 and 3 days a week is also starting to shift. So we're optimistic now that we're going to start seeing increases in our ridership because of all these factors. And so that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Rick. Well, I'm glad
Thank
to
you.
hear that your things are kind of starting that trend back to normal. It's great.
Yeah. Thanks,
Any
Bob.
further questions of Rick? Hearing none, moving on to the PACE report. Ed Gallagher, please.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Before I start going into ridership, I just want to state that I am sorry, but I do not have the specific North Division ridership and Lake County specific ridership this morning. I've made the request to our data analysis team, and hopefully I'll have that in the next couple of weeks. If I don't have it, if I'm open to have it by the next meeting, if not, then I will submit it the minute I get it. Our team is working on a lot of data right now and turning around a lot of different reports for different organizations. So hopefully we'll get that leadership soon. But as to the ridership data I do have, I can share that in January, PACE fixed route service was up 20.6% from last year. So that is a 2023 to 2022 ridership. Again, just about 1 million riders rode on our fixed route service in January. It's 20.6% higher than last year. In February, we saw just over 1 million riders on our fixed route service. That was 7.3% higher than the 2023 level. And then finally, in March, PACE carried 1.6 million riders, which is just about 4% over our 2022 ridership numbers. So we are continuing to see a slow, steady growth on our ridership overall this year, which is really great to see. I will point out the January data is really high. I know our team is going to be really digging into kind of what we saw in different trends this year versus last year to get that 20% increase, which is really nice. As to our ADA paratransit, we are nearly at 100% ridership versus our pre-pandemic levels. Again, ADA ridership is back to nearly 100% of pre-pandemic levels. And to recognize that and to continue to support ADA ridership, PACE has now implemented TNC pilot projects and services with TNC and taxi services to help supplement and augment some of that ADA paratransit services. We had 6,000 individual trips on TNC services such as Uber and UServe. So that's really great to see the utilization of those alternative services. When it comes to electrification, in March, on March 20th, PACE commemorated the $1.9 million community funding grant that we received from Congressman Brad Schneider. Huge thank you to his office and our congressional leadership for their support of PACE. We are glad to report that funding will go to purchase nearly 2 full electric buses for our North Division garage, which is our foundational project and will be the first fleet to go fully electric. PACE did not hold a ribbon cutting. We held something different. We had a giant electrical plug on site. So there was a photo of everybody holding a giant electrical plug. So we were really proud to move towards electric here in Lake County. And then there's 2 other updates on electrification. It's really just a great time here at PACE. Just yesterday, PACE was presented the CMAP 2023 Regional Resilience Award for our Project Zero. Project Zero is the newly renamed Zero Emissions Commitment project here at PACE. You can get more information on that program at pacebus.com. 2023-0. The project to receive the 2023 Resilience Award had to demonstrate strengthening the capacity of our community's infrastructure and operations, strengthening resiliency to address the raising risks of climate change, and create tangible results that are addressed through these regional challenges. So we're really proud to receive that award, and I know there was a nice trophy that was presented to our board just yesterday. Last, a little update on electrical. Also, at yesterday's board meeting, our board approved several different ordinances, one of them specifically to purchase and install electrical car charging stations to be implemented at 9 individual PACE locations throughout the region. I am really proud to report that Lake County is getting one of these projects. So we will be installing electrical car chargers at the Buffalo Grove Transportation Center and Park and Ride. That location is currently serviced by our 234, our 272, and our 626 routes, respectively. This will allow ridership, both at that metro station as well as our PACE ridership, to plug in their electrical cars to charge while they're utilizing both PACE and metro services. So really great improvement there at our Buffalo Grove Park and Ride and Transportation Center. Also yesterday, just continuing on the great news from the board meeting yesterday, PACE collected and reviewed public comments for our 6 public hearings that we held in March regarding our van pool part-time ridership pilot program discount and our Naperville Aurora on-demand expansion. Glad to report that the board accepted and approved both the expansion of the Naperville Aurora on-demand and approval of the pilot program for the van pool part-time fares. As a small refresher, the van pool part-time ridership discount program was introduced last year as a pilot program designed for employees whom are working on a hybrid work environment to utilize van pool at a reduced cost. So if individuals are using the van or for van pool less than 3 days a week, they can get 50% off their regular van pool fares. So we have seen a lot of return to work utilizing that hybrid model. So really glad to have that now as a continual tool in our tool belt. And then my last update will be on hiring. So PACE this year has continued our commitment to bringing in new recruitment of drivers and mechanics here at our services. The next round of our hire on the spot events are going to be Tuesday, April 25th at the Prairie Lakes Community Center, just south of Lake County in Des Plaines. This hiring event is focused on assisting our Northwest Division garage, which is in Des Plaines, which will be potentially moving up to Wheeling in the near future as well. This garage and division will be the main point for our Pulse Dempster line service, our bus rapid transit service. So we are looking to hire new drivers to ensure that we can get Pulse Dempster up and running, because it'll be a great connection between Evanston and O'Hare. With that, I will end with the commitment to getting the ridership the minute I have it. So once I have the updated ridership, I'll email it over to Mike.
Thanks, Ed. It's great information. Any questions of Ed? And once again, thank you, everybody. Great information from the group. Moving on to agenda item number 4, STP Shared Fund Regional Priority Points. Mike's going to give us an update, and we have a vote on this one for approval. Mike?
Yeah, thanks, Bob. So if you remember the last couple of years, we have assigned bonus points to projects that submitted applications to the STP Shared Fund. So we have created a simple scoring system that we've used the last 2 rounds of the STP Shared Fund. So this is not the Council of Mayors program. This is the STP Shared Fund that communities apply to at CMAP, but the council can assign points to those projects. The new rules, we can assign points up to 5 projects, with the top, most number 1 priority getting 5 points, and then 4, 3, 2, 1. our 5 projects that we can submit. So I took the applications that were submitted to the STP shared fund and scored them. And the 5 projects that was included in there. This makes up 5% of the total scoring of the STP shared fund. So it's a relatively small percentage, but you know, it is some additional points. So this is kind of how the scoring went broke down based on that really pretty simple scoring methodology that we used. And then in the case of Lake Forest and Lake Bluff, where there was a tie in the points, using the ADT calculation that we have, which in the methodology is capped at 20 points. I put what the points would have been had it not been capped, and they use that as a tiebreaker. And that's what we did 2 years ago as well. So if there are you know, any questions on this, I can try to answer them. But again, this is not for the council active program. This is assigning points, a small percentage of points for those that applied to the shared fund. So we're looking to approve this today. The deadline to submit our points to CMAP is tomorrow.
Thank you for the update, Mike. Any questions of Mike? I'm looking for a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve. Hawthorne Woods.
Long Grove second.
Mike, roll call, please.
Beach Park,
Aye.
Deerfield,
Yes.
Fox Lake,
Yes.
Gurnee,
Yes.
Hawthorne Woods,
Aye.
Killdeer, Lake Forest.
Yes.
Oh, I skipped Lake Bluff.
Yes.
LCDOT,
Yes.
Libertyville,
Yes.
Lindenhurst,
Yes.
Long Grove,
Yes.
Round Lake,
Aye.
Round Lake Beach,
Aye.
Vernon Hills,
Aye.
Waukegan.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to current Lake STP program. There's a lot of information. Mike, are you doing the update on this?
I am. And so I'll start with the quarterly status updates. And then I realized I kind of put the agenda in maybe a little bit kind of out of order in terms of what logically makes sense. So if it's all right, I'll take the first 3 items here kind of together. And then if there's questions, I'll pause after that. And then we can look at the methodology and guidebook at the end. But in terms of the quarterly status updates, just wanted to thank everyone for getting those all in. We had everybody submit their quarterly status updates in March. You know, we didn't have anybody that didn't submit. So wanted to thank everybody for that, but just reminder, you know, these are really, really important. One, we use them to track where projects are at in our program. CMAP uses them to track where projects are at, you know, across the region. We also use them to track trends. If, you know, we see the same kind of thing across the region with projects slipping. So these are really important. And, you know, per the new active program management rules that were passed that we talked about last time, if a project doesn't have, you know, if they miss even one quarterly status update, they're not eligible to receive a 6-month extension in the program, should they need it. So really critical that these get submitted. Like I said, we didn't have anybody that missed them in March. Appreciate you working with Joe and getting all that stuff. So just wanted to put that out there. In terms of the next items here, before I really kind of get into the project changes, I just kind of wanted to pull up a couple of different things here. So we'll start with the council's 23 program. So we're in good shape with the council's 23 program. The Vernon Hills project was let in March. North Chicago is preparing agreements for their phase 2 engineering. Waukegan is preparing construction agreements. The Lindenhurst project is advancing. And the other projects are, the last couple of projects on the list are just waiting on agreement approval at IDOT. So, you know, we're tracking in good shape with the 23 program. So there's a spreadsheet here, and I know this is kind of too much to see. Don't really mean to you know, have everybody read this entire spreadsheet, but this is CMAP's regional accounting for the end of March. And really what I wanted to point out here is Lake County, row H here, this funds that expired at the end of March. We did not have any funds. Thanks, Mark. We did not have any funds expire at the end of March. So our council program is tracking in good shape. The other thing I wanted to point out that as of the end of March, where those councils that had granted 6-month extensions that expired, if they had projects that didn't get to a letting after that 6-month extension, those funds got moved to the redistributive pot. The redistributive pot is now over $73 million. So there's a lot of money available in the region. If we can get our annual mark spent, we can access those funds. So that's where I'm looking to try to adjust, minimize the amount of time we're waiting on agreements and Fed authorization so that we can get our money spent. That said, while our program looks like this and was included in the meeting packet for today, there is significant change coming to the program over the next, say, 6 months at least. I have received a number of requests for project changes. Some sponsors have requested to move projects from a later year up to the current year. Some sponsors have requested a 6-month extension. Some sponsors have requested to move projects back. In addition to all of those project changes, the amount of funding we have available each year of our 5-year program is changing, starting with federal fiscal year 2024. So this top row of this spreadsheet here is the funding that you'll see in our current program. It's the funding that we were planning on having for the 23 through 27 program. For a variety of reasons, partially because of the federal infrastructure bill, partially because of the way IDOT and FHWA pass through funds to CMAP, the way the funds are distributed once they get to Illinois, to CMAP, down to the council, there's been some adjustments, and that happens every year, but there was some one-time increases in 24 that were unexpected, but moving forward after 24, sort of the baseline that we're planning growth from is lower than what was previously anticipated. So these new programming marks don't take effect until October 1st. And we don't yet have guidance from CMAP on how we're going to make those changes in the TIP. We're just starting to plan for it. But as you can see, 2024, we have about $328,000 more than we were planning. But then in 2025, 2026, 2027, the numbers are slightly lower. That doesn't mean that we're going to be looking to push projects that are programmed in those years out of the program or to the contingency list. As I mentioned, there's that large redistributive balance. So we can plan on utilizing some of that in those future years to ensure that the projects in our program can move forward, but we do have to maintain fiscal constraint. Then the other complicating factor that we don't know yet is starting in fiscal year 2025 and 2025 through 2030, the way that each council of governments, the formula at CMAP of how the money is distributed to each council, that formula is going to change slightly in 2025. So in 2020, when we went to this new system, it was a needs-based formula. So it looked at the number of lane miles in disrepair and square footage of bridge decks and all those metrics. Those metrics will still be used in 2025, but it will also take into account councils that have done a good job of spending money. And so if you've done a good job, your need in theory would have gone down. So it's a way to kind of balance that. So that new sort of progress metric will be included in the formula starting in 2025. So we know the numbers are changing in October, and then at some point in the future, again, the numbers will change again, on top of all the different project changes and schedule changes. So it's a very long-winded way of saying there's going to be change in the program. I anticipate there will be projects that move years. I anticipate there will be projects that move from the active list to the contingency list, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to move forward. With that large redistributive balance, we're still going to be able to build projects that are in our program, but we have to maintain fiscal constraint in the TIP and in our program. So just starting, you know, we don't yet know all the changes that are happening. You know, kind of looking at them in totality as we know these new numbers. I'll keep everybody updated, but we do know that change is coming, you know, in terms of the amount of funding we have available, and then with the change, you know, with project schedules and things like that. So with that, I'll pause and see if there's questions on this. But, you know, don't have a lot of detail on those changes just yet. We're waiting on the guidance from CMAP, and we'll know more over the summer. Like I said, these new programming marks don't start until October, so there's some time for us to plan, and we'll discuss further. All right. Hearing no questions, I'll move on to the STP methodology and guidebook discussion. So really, two items that I wanted to discuss. So you'll recall back in January, we discussed possibly creating a subcommittee. There didn't seem to be, you know, the group didn't feel like that was necessary. So did get a couple of suggestions that I wanted to, you know, run past the group and look for some consensus on for some I guess some minor changes. So the first one is regarding the right-of-way clearance. So currently our program rules state that right-of-way must be certified by June 30th of the prior fiscal year for construction to be put in the following year. So using this year as an example, projects that are targeting fiscal year 2024 would need to have their right-of-way certified in 2 months by June 30th of this year to be programmed in 2024. I guess my proposal in this, having gone through this a number of times, I think this rule is causing more burden than it's really helping the council protect itself. I think with the active program management rules that we have the ability to shift projects around. And I don't think this is particularly necessary. The right-of-way certification deadline for each letting is, you know, a couple months before the letting. I think that is acceptable. So my proposal would be that we just remove this from the council rules, and we just go with the IDOT certification. I think there's enough, like I said, enough flexibility in the way we can adjust projects that we don't need to have this deadline that isn't imposed by IDOT. It's just a council rule. So if there's, any comments or questions on that, I guess what I'm looking for today, not necessarily approval, but if there's consensus, then we'll, bring this to the full council for them to approve. So that's one item. And then the other item that we got a suggestion on is regarding, go to my highlighted section, the maximum funding amounts that we have, specifically regarding resurfacings. So the way the current rules are set up, we have a cap of $1 million for a resurfacing, for a pavement preservation project. But we also give more points for projects that include bike path and sidewalk and those non-motorized components. Given the cost of those items, essentially what we're doing is prioritizing them and then not paying for them and making them, not with this cap. So I guess my suggestion here is that we leave the $1 million cap just for the LAFO projects, those that are just a mill and fill between the curbs. But for a project that's including bike path or sidewalk or those other non-motorized components, we don't have this $1 million cap. We can kind of use the cap for the other projects. So those are the two, I guess, pretty minor items in that we got suggestions for. So if there's comments or questions on either one, happy to take them.
Hey, Mike, this is Mark. Excuse me. I think the other one's fine. Personally, I think it's a good idea if it meets the IDOT certification requirements on the property. I think that's great. On the maximum federal funding aspect, is there some specific rules on the limits set with this and specific amounts? And the only reason I just want to comment is we've done a couple of bids on projects, and it's some paving, not a lot, but they're coming in considerably higher than what we had anticipated. And I guess just setting a baseline limits, unless there's some requirement. I mean, we might need to start looking at ways to allow for increases coming out of this COVID era and all the inflationary pressures, and not only inflationary pressures and cost of projects, there's a number of bidders on projects too. I think I don't know what everybody else is seeing, but I think that if there's pressure also on costs that are resulting from workforce issues and just people not having and working, we've all heard that anecdotal information, but if these aren't specific limits, I don't know if there's been any thought, or maybe there should be, about looking at these numbers as a hard limit with those considerations. Maybe there's ways to allow for inflationary cost increases from year to year or something. I don't know.
Yeah, so a couple things there. So these are sort of intended to be the maximum award size for a specific project, and those are basically intended to be based on the amount of funding we get on an annual basis. We can't spend more money than we get on an annual basis. So the council said we would dedicate up to 20% on an annual basis of our programming mark towards those pavement preservation projects. But then we also put sort of that $1 million limit per project. And so what I would propose here is that that $1 million limit only applies to just the straight mill and fill, but if you're doing those ancillary sidewalk, bike path, we don't have that $1 million limit on there. The only limit would be the roughly 20% of our total annual mark. Likewise, the like roadways and intersection category is limited to 80%, just again, so we don't spend over our total amount. And then we do have a whole section in the rules that we adjusted in January on cost increases, so that we do allow for cost increases up to 20%. That's the regional limit on cost increases is 20%. That's for not just our council, that's just in the active program management rules for the entire region. And there's a couple of different ways that we can go about it. If we have funding available prior to you submitting draft funding agreements to IDOT, we can do that agreement. We can add those funds prior to submitting. Once you submit agreements, what we're looking for is to wait until that initial agreement has basically been 80% expended. And then we can tap into the redistributed fund because we know that IDOT, what we found out is IDOT doesn't authorize the new federal funds for a cost increase until the original funding agreement is basically nearly expended. So in an effort to not tie up the council funds waiting on that authorization and then not allow us to tap into it, we said we can still honor those cost increases. We'll just do it later in the project before it's financially closed out. So we do have a couple ways that cost increases can be addressed.
Yeah, no, I forgot all about that cost increase aspect of it. And that I guess makes some sense. But if you look at $1 million up front and, you know, if that inflationary pressure and all the other cost increases continue to hold, you know, $1 million, and I'm exaggerating, you know, I don't have specifics, but, you know, we do a block of a project, you know, that's not much of a, you know, resurfacing when it comes down to, you know, overall the cost of, you know, and more lane miles to do the work. But yeah, I forgot about the cost increases, and that makes sense. And so I'm just something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
I feel that the proposal makes good sense, Mike. And I think, you know, I guess to build on what Mark said, you know, I think, you know, I think we need to avoid a knee-jerk reaction to what's going on in the market, and you know, not to beat this $1 million thing to death, but you know, projects are obviously coming in high, but I think that's going to be, you know, short-lived, and that things are, you know, I would hope that anyways that things are going to regulate and come back down to earth. You know, fuel prices need to adjust, but you know, right now things are definitely coming in high. But I think these are good recommendations, and I would be in favor of them. Are there any other comments on Mike's discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on. Item number 6. Mike, do we have any other business?
The only thing I wanted to mention, so Kama in her CMAP presentation mentioned that we've been working with CMAP on a presentation on the PART project, the Plan of Action for Regional Transit. And so at our May 4th full council meeting, we're going to have Aaron Alleman, CMAP's executive director, come and give a report. And then we're also planning to have an updated report on the PART program in July as well. So just wanted to point those out. And then as discussed before, I'll put together a list with those funding opportunities and the special programs conference and get that out to everybody as well. So that's all I had.
That's great. Thanks, Mike. Do we have any public comment via email?
Check my email. I have not received anything via email.
Okay, and do we have any public comment in the room for anybody that wants to comment at this time? Hearing none. Our next meeting is July 20th, and we will be required to have an in-person quorum. Is that correct, Mike?
That is correct.
And so the county will be set up accordingly. I will have a hybrid meeting, I would assume.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll be looking to have our quorum is 10. So we'll be looking to have 10 representatives in the room in Libertyville, and then we are set up to have a hybrid meeting. So, you know, those that can't make it to Libertyville will still be able to meet via Zoom.
Sounds great. Looking forward to getting back into the swing of things here. It's been a long time. Other than that, we'll adjourn the meeting. I don't think we need to have a roll call. So a meeting's adjourned, and thank you everybody for coming. We'll see you in July. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, everybody.
Here.
Thank you. Bye.
Everyone have a good one.